All right, welcome back to another edition of Sound the Sirens. I'm your host, Thomas Orness, and today I got my brother back, Michael, on to discuss the latest great game against Texas Tech, one of the greatest road wins I can remember. You, I Let's just start with you because you actually got to watch the game. I was actually working, so I got to listen
Mhm.
to John Eric. So you had more of a good view and a review for it. So what'd you think of like the first half and second half and just how it went?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone kind of had this game circled on their schedule. So a game that was going to be tough, and I mean, and it definitely was. Texas Tech is definitely a very skilled offensive team, and they're really well coached too. I really like their coach. I think Grant McCaslin does a really good job, and I think the first half they came out, they had this JT Toppin had like 12 points in the first 14 minutes, was on fire, hit a couple threes, which I think he had like 1 3 going into the game, which is typical, but I think from the start it was gonna be tough, and especially when our guys, it definitely wasn't an A game for most of the game, for our guys, especially Keyshawn. But I think too, I think there's one thing this team time and time again has done is they weather these runs, they hang around. And I mean, honestly, like I don't know what you think, but what point deficit at halftime makes you nervous for this team? Honestly, like over 20, but if it's under 20, I think we're probably fine. I was texting some buddies that in the first half, I said, if we keep it under 10, we're totally fine. And then we went on a little run in the last 2 minutes to cut it to 4 or 5. And we almost hit I mean, the team steals the inbound pass and we almost hit a three at the buzzer. So, I mean, that was almost a one possession game going into half, which I mean, if you just watch the first half, you ask anyone with no dog in the fight, they would say Texas Tech is the better team today. And they definitely were. I mean, we led for a minute and 20 seconds. So I was never nervous, but I also wasn't really expecting to win, especially how we were playing. But then, I mean, my goodness, you go back and watch the last 6 minutes of the regulation, and we just executed so well. We rebounded extremely well, and we stopped turning the ball over. I mean, we had like 10 turnovers in the first half. We're at one point we're getting out rebounded 14-1, which I think one thing we'll talk about later is opposing teams' offensive rebounding is becoming an issue. But I mean, we really just locked in the last 10 minutes, and yeah, it was, but like you said, one of the best road wins of our lifetime. And there's not many teams in Iowa State in our history that win a game like that. I mean, because Texas Tech played well, we didn't, but look at the final score, we won by one. So, what were your thoughts once you got to
It
see
was
some of
just
it, and then also when you watched it back?
listening to it, it just seemed like we're getting a little run, getting back to it, and then they just hit two threes, and we're back to 10. And it just kept like we're doing, hitting your head against the wall over and over and over again. But our team doesn't let up, and I think our defense finally prevailed, and we just got a lot of stops at the end of the game. And Joshua Jefferson, can't say enough about him. That the out of bounds play to drew up for him to get those two
Oh,
free throws, uh, two clutch free throws done on the road to get those done because I was like, just make the first one. And then you made the
yeah,
first one. I was like, all right,
exactly what I said.
the next one's so much easier. And yeah, that buzzer beater to tie the game. We got extra time on just so that could happen if they don't review it, which I was kind of complaining about. They're over reviewing, and then of course that helps us out at the end. And
Hmm.
it rarely ever happens that way. It's usually like, oh, if this would have happened, this should have happened, and we would have won if that would happen. Like the Kansas game, like a couple of years ago with Caleb Grill. It just feels like all
Right.
these type of games we just somehow lose, but we did
Yeah.
everything we can, and it just kind of felt like the Baylor went at Baylor last year, but we should have won that one with the Milan buzzer beater. And I just feel like this was kind of justice for that one, and it's just really nice to see a Cyclone team with a lot of expectations go on the road and honestly start the Big 12 4-0 and win every road game so far and have the announcers. And I don't know, I just kind of felt like I never thought we were going to lose until they just kept answering over and over and over again. I was like, okay, well, and we just kept missing free throws. And I'm just like, we can't. This is a recipe for disaster, especially in the TJ era. I was like, you have to hit your free throws and not let up just wide open threes that just gets them back leading in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, but other than that, it was just I mean Chatfield, can't say enough about him. Came in, just did all the dirty work, got the rebounds. Nate Heisey fouled out, but did everything. A lot of little stuff that really contributed. He's a small guard out there, just rebounding like a big. I think
He's
that's.
not. He's 6'5". He's not small.
I mean, yeah, but just for a power forward out there, we had Joshua Jefferson. He was at the 4 for a while, and it's like, but in the overtime, but
He's at the 5.
yeah, which is crazy, and he's can't say enough about him. He's the leading scorer for UNI last year, and now he's just doing all the dirty work for the Cyclones, and it's we're probably gonna be ranked second today. The polls.
Has that come out yet?
No, it's going to come out probably in an hour or two. So I'm just going to guess we're ranked second in the nation for the first time in school history. It's the highest we've ever been, and we're going into Kansas, and man, it should be a packed crowd. Obviously, the students aren't back yet, which kind of sucks. But
they're not. I thought they are.
I don't think they are. I don't think so.
I'm sure they are. I'll check.
I don't think so. I don't know. Just saying, if they are or they aren't, I think either way it should be a packed crowd like the Baylor game, and just Phil Hilton up. There should be one empty seat.
Right. They don't come back till next week.
Yeah, which stinks. But
dang, lucky for Kansas. It's still going to be crazy, but yeah, that's a bummer.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess you mentioned a few guys. Who was who? I don't know if MVP is the right word, but I guess who would you put this game on? I guess who to you was the most valuable to us?
Joshua Jefferson, buzzer beater, and hitting those clutch free throws. But just like the bulk of the game, I'd say I don't know. Curtis Jones comes in, he really comes in and just levels everything out. He might be one of the top 10 players in the country. Like we've been giving a lot of people in Iowa State land has been giving it to all the love to Keyshawn, but I think Gilbert might be. I mean, Keyshawn's a top 20, top 15 college player too, and it's just having them both and one coming off the bench, especially with Chatfield. It's just so refreshing because Chatfield does everything that we wanted him to come in to do at Iowa State, he's done, and it's just so
and more.
Yeah, and more.
Yeah, he's been incredible. And I was listening to Williams and Bloom today, and they threw out a stat which blew my mind. So there's like an offensive efficiency rating for each player. Guess where Brandon Chatfield is, or Branton, sorry, is in the Big 12.
Top 5.
He's 6th.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been incredible. Yeah, but I think too, honestly, I feel Curtis Jones right now, it's just, we assume he's going to get 20. But I mean, you look, the shots he makes are not easy. Like these contested floaters, if you've ever attempted one, I mean, he attempts like 7 a game, and I think he hit his first 6. It was almost like, it's like a layup. Like he gets to his right spot, and it doesn't matter as long as someone's not 6'10" guarding him, he gets it off, it's going in. And the crazy thing is he had a slow start. He didn't have his first bucket until like 8 minutes in the first half. So, I mean, he scored 26 points in 30, I guess with overtime at 20-some minutes. So he has been just so freaking good. And the thing is too, I think right now it's just assumed, but our guards are really, really good. They make the other guards uncomfortable, and their guards played really well. I thought the Hawkins kid was awesome. We're lucky he got in foul trouble so early. He had like 10 assists or something with no turnovers. So yeah, I think our guards, the thing is too, I guess I'll ask you now, who is our best player? If you had to choose one person right now
playing at their best, I think it might be Curtis Jones.
No, I guess just how they played. You look at our last 15 games, 15 games. At this point in the season, who is the best player in Iowa State?
I think it's Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones has not struggled once all year at any aspect of any part of the game. Like turnovers, no. 3-point shot, one of the best in the country. Defense, one of the best defenders in the country. So I'm not sure what else you can ask for, especially coming off the bench.
He's averaging 17 a game. Incredible.
He might be
He's shooting 40% from 3, 83 from the free throw line.
Could he be the first?
Averaging over a steal a game. Yeah, he's been. I think I agree with you. Keyshawn is. I mean, the thing is too, like the difference between our best and worst player is not much.
Nope.
But man, Curtis has been so good, and the thing is, it's hilarious. He started the first game, he had 5 points, and then ever since then, he's been double figures, and he's been in 20 points. He's had 20 or more 6 games, which is the most in the country for someone coming off the bench.
Honestly, since the TCU last year, he has been absolutely money ever since then. Since Lipsy
Yeah, I
couldn't
mean,
play.
we were last year after the Thanksgiving tournament. He was horrible, and we're like, we should play Jackson Pavletsky over him,
Right.
which was true. He was shooting like 18% from three, but he's totally taken it to another level, and it's just fun watching the announcers just really rave about him because I think he came from Buffalo. He averaged like 3 points a game when he played at Buffalo, which is insane, and now he's one of the best players in the country, and definitely I mean, everyone says he's the best sixth man in the country. He is, and it's not close. I would like to see someone say, give a list of 5 people that are close, and I would tell you that they're not, because Curtis right now has been absolute money.
Also, last podcast you were complaining about how we never really succeed after out of bounds timeouts, and I think we had 4 or 5.
We won the game on it.
Yeah.
But
incredible.
I'm not going to say they're probably not listening, but maybe they did, and that's Nate Schmidt heard me, and he really stepped up his game. But my goodness, our out of bounds plays that's the best an Otzelberger team has been on out of timeouts and out of bounds plays of any game.
Yeah, especially on the road.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
They were consistently scoring, and the play they drew up to win was just an awesome play. And yeah, I think you're right. Curtis is our best player. I think our most consistent player is probably Joshua Jefferson. He is so level-headed. He is never out of control. He's a great defender. He rebounds the heck out of the ball. And I mean, can you remember a time we had a post player that we can rely on to make free throws to win a game? He's shooting close to 84% from the line, and
I think it says a lot.
I mean, he had some really big time free throws, and he stepped the line and just cashed them in, and it was just awesome. And then throw in 8 rebounds too. I mean, he has been. I don't know. I think him being injured was one of the biggest blessings last year, because I mean, he a little under the radar in the transfer portal, and I don't think you could ask for a better incoming guy to plug and play into from our roster going into from last year to this year. And he's just been
not a slight on Trey King, but Joshua Jefferson is like Trey King, like the best version of Trey King every single game. Trey King only did that.
Well, he can handle the ball. He can facilitate. I mean, because honestly, right now, he's the go-to guy when we were struggling. Because either you get to the high post, he can take someone guy one-on-one. He's really good at kicking it out, which last year our post players really struggled. And then 2, Tech wasn't doubling him in the first half, and he would just back him down and take his time and then make a contested 4-foot jumper. So he's been, I mean, we could talk over and over and over for the next 3 hours about how good he's been, and it wouldn't be enough, because he's just been awesome. And what I'm excited too is what I love when guys come in from programs that don't have the home environment that Hilton is. Like, Wednesday is going to be a big time environment. And I think it's just so fun for these guys that haven't played in that to experience it. I mean, you can just kind of remember last year, the Keyshawn Kansas game. Keyshawn was just having a blast. He makes that 3 that maybe a little ill-advised, but then the place goes nuts and he puts the game away. And just for Heisey and Chatfield and Jefferson and Jackson to get that experience, I think this will be the biggest Hilton's been probably. Marquette game was good, but I think the Hilton in Big 12 play is just a little different than non-conference. So I'm excited. We're going to be there. It's going to be loud, even if the students aren't there. Kansas always brings a little more juice, and it's just Bill Self, who we love.
I think Jay Billis is on the call
too. Bill Self loves Hilton.
I think Jay Billis is on the call too.
Is he really?
On ESPN too.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, Tom, like, you look at kind of how that game went. If I tell you before the game, Milan plays 17 minutes, has 5 points. Deshaun Jackson plays 13 minutes, 8 points, no rebounds. Keyshawn has 6 turnovers.
And we missed 7 free throws.
And we airball, say, hey, and I even tell you we can make it overtime, and Nate Heisey airballs a 3 in the corner in overtime. Do we win? No way.
No.
I mean, gosh, you watch that last 4 minutes. They had so many chances to put us away. And I mean, we definitely had a little bit of a luck. We had a little bit of luck going to it, because they had 2 90% free throw shooters miss. And then Williams, I think his name is.
He had 4 fouls for a long time too.
3 fouls, and he got 4th in overtime. But he missed a free throw too. He's above 80%. So, I mean, Kansas has had some balls bounce their way. I mean, and when you're good enough, sometimes they bounce your way. And this team's just good enough to take advantage of it. So I think, I don't know. I really can't remember a game being this excited after a win in a long time. I don't know what it was about it, but it didn't feel like we should win. And then they get a good look to win, and it doesn't go in, which feels like more times than not when you're Iowa State, that ball goes in.
But if that would have been, I would have lost my mind. It's like, are you kidding? He got all the way to the rim and almost made it and got it.
Yeah, well, Jefferson, you could tell that they were told in the huddle, don't foul. Because the way that the ref crew was calling the game, if it was close, they were going to call it for Tech, because we could not freaking buy call at the rim.
Especially after they just gave us a call, Joshua Jefferson. Obviously, it was a foul, but sometimes they don't call it. Well, they just swallow the whistle.
The play before it, the Hawkins kid just totally bodies up Keyshawn, and there was a ton of contact and no call. So, yeah, the refs were irritating to me. Obviously, we're biased, but it felt we could not get a call at the rim, which I think partly is why Keyshawn was so frustrated. Because, I mean, he normally gets a few of those calls, and he just couldn't get anything. So he probably forced it a little bit too much. But, yeah, that's a game.
But it hasn't
rewatch every day for the next month, and it'll just get you out of whatever slump you're in, because it was just so awesome to win an overtime game on the road.
Yeah, overtime. We never win overtime. We never win those type of games ever.
The Okie State Naz long games probably the last overtime road win we've had.
How many times we've gone to overtime and we don't even make one basket, and they just make 4 threes in a row, and it's just like not even. Yeah, it's just over.
Kansas game from Tyrus this year, we lost by 10 in overtime. We scored 2 points. Yeah, and I think one thing too, just going forward, is right now we're not even playing that well. Like, we've had way better weeks. I mean, I don't think anyone would say the Utah game was an A effort. We still won by 20. This was definitely not an A effort, and we win on the road in overtime. So that's what excites me, is like, we're not peaking right now, and I don't want to peak in January. It's never good to peak in January. So the fact that we still have stuff to work on, and we keep winning, and we're 4-0 in Big 12 play, and we're going to be ranked second in the country, and have Kansas, who's going to be a top 10 team, coming to Hilton Wednesday.
Good times.
What else could you ask for, Tom?
I don't know. It's winning like that on the road is just so refreshing, especially with Fran on the call. It's on ESPN Plus. It's a game where we crawl back and we actually finish the deal. Like, we try to do that so many times in the past through Cyclone history, where I feel like we've seen that game 20 times in our life, and we just always lose. But that game, finally, we won. So, because that was
honestly, credit to Tech. Like, Tech is good. Their guards are good. That Anderson kid, their freshman, he hit some big shots.
And if we're being honest, if they had their students there, we probably don't win.
Yeah, even so, it was a pretty good environment. But yeah, I agree. It would have been probably a little tougher. But the thing is, our team really doesn't affect him that much. I mean, we're just so level-headed, and I think our guys honestly like it. Like Curtis.
Yep.
He's found the killer instinct. I don't know if you just see how he reacts after he hits a big shot. He's just like, get me the freaking ball. Because, I mean, they hit a big 3 to go up 4 with 2 minutes left, and he went right down top of the key. And it was like one pass possession. He was open. He's like, you know what, I'm taking it. And it goes in. And that was a big shot. He had one ill-advised 3 with 1:20 left where he just forced it on an out-of-bounds play, and it wasn't close. And I thought that's when it was over. But that's the other thing, too, is our guys just keep fighting. Because, I mean, Keyshawn had probably one of his worst games of the year, but he kept fighting. He had a big bucket to cut it to 1 at the end of regulation, and then he played really well in overtime.
He had a big bucket out of halftime to hit his first 3 after halftime, which really helped us too. And it's just nice to have we have a lot of players that can silence the crowd. Like, I think that's what Joshua Jefferson's really a great player, that just silence the crowd. And he's a player that silences the crowd, and it doesn't have to be a 3. It can just be a post up, slowly, like 3 or 4 second, back you down, just right like a hook shot, and that's what really kills the crowd. And I think that's one thing that he's great at, that he does over and over again, that he did it against Iowa, did it in this game, did in Boulder too. So it's and Curious Jones played 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's insane. Well, the other thing too is, like, the first half, we could not make a jumper to save our lives. At one point, we're 11 for 20 from the free throw line. But do you know how many points in the paint we had?
A lot, right? Was on like
50.
50? Yeah.
We hit 6 threes and scored 85 points. Not many Iowa State teams ever could do that. But the thing is, too, what I love is our post players can have points in the paint, and so can our guards. Like, we have so many different ways. And that's what I love about this team is that's why I think this team is built to win on the road, is because obviously we defend well, but we don't rely on the outside shot to win games. That's one thing that we're going to blow some teams out when we're shooting. Like, if we hit 12 threes against Kansas, we'll win by probably 20. But we had 6 threes and win on the road. Like, that doesn't happen very often. But that just goes to show that we have a reproducible way to play. And like we said last week, the other team has to play an A-plus game to beat us. And Texas probably played an A game. Would have been A-plus if their free throw shooters made them down the stretch, but they didn't, and we won.
Yeah, we just keep on, like, and I love how when we get behind, we don't have to shoot 33s to get back. Like, it can be just a natural getting back in the game versus like just shooting a bunch of, like, Tyrus McGee coming in and hitting 4 threes in a row. It's like, all right, we're back. It's not like that. Like, Curtis Jones gets in the lane, does a lot of it. Like inside the arc, he's just so much better this year than he was last year, and he's so money. Like you said, his floater game is just so good. Like, running to the left, and like all of his momentum is going left, he can still make a jump shot like that is just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, he's been so good. Keyshawn has also been good. Not his best game, but he's going to be ready to go Wednesday. And I mean, again, last week, talked for half an hour. Haven't talked about Tamin Lipsey. Tamin Lipsey had some big time defensive plays, and he just is so steady, and he's so relentless. Like, he's gonna get it. He's gonna get the other guard to turn it over a couple times a game, just because he's always in the right spot and always just putting pressure on him.
Even that at the end of the first half, even though we didn't make the 3, it's still like a momentum. Like, oh crap, they're starting to get our number a little bit here.
Yeah, right. That's totally right, and it was such a satisfying win. And the thing is, too, these things they are small steps to keep building momentum. And like you said, I think that too, back in the day, if we try to shoot our ways out of games to catch up, those can get out of hand really fast, because missed threes lead to long rebounds, run out, dunks. Now we're down 20. This team doesn't do that. They slowly and steadily throw to Joshua Jefferson. We had a great out of bounds play where Keyshawn had a back cut, and they just consistently hang in there. Like, we're not shooting threes, but we score enough twos. And then this team always has a 3 to 4 minute run where they turn the team over 4 or 5 times in a row. That leads to quick points, and then all of a sudden it's tied. And the thing is, that what I was so impressed with Texas Tech is they hit big shot after big shot. Like, Tamin hits a 3, we get our first lead of the game. The next possession, Darian Williams hits a 3 and ties it up again. So, like, it wasn't like we got the lead and like, oh, now we just ran away with it. Like, they just kept fighting. And that Anderson kid hit 2 just incredibly tough contested shots in overtime. If those don't go in, we probably win by 6 or 7, but they just kept coming at us. And it's just crazy to me to be down in regulation and overtime. We're losing with less than 10 seconds left. And Josh Jefferson both times was in the right spot. So
I mean, going from last year to this year, our coaching staff has done a pretty damn good job of drawing something up, and we have a shot to win, and we actually get a shot off. I mean, that's a little.
The things too. The credit to Milan and Tamin, because it looked a little improvised at the end of regulation. Because I think he was supposed to get it back to Keyshawn, but they defended it well, and Milan kind of had like a quarter of a second where it was like, oh crap, it's not there. But then Tamin makes a great cut to get it up the floor, and then makes the right play where we had just enough time to get it to Jefferson, and where he makes it at the buzzer. So, and
for Jefferson to catch the ball, in that situation, have Lipsey good enough vision, and like just that pressure of at that time. How many times we just at that point we just don't catch the ball, it just goes out of bounds, game over, or Lipsey falls out of bounds and doesn't get the pass attempt even out.
A step back contested 3 that doesn't hit anything.
Or shooting the ball with 2 seconds left, or like we have so much more time, but we just panic. And like, remember when Solomon Young turned around, just shot a 3 at home against Texas, like that. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Which
no,
Thank
No,
goodness.
that's why I still love these games too. Even if we would have lost, it really wouldn't have mattered much going forward. But it's another quad one win, and it's just another like situationally tough game and where you learn a ton. And this our guys proving that they can produce in the high pressure situations, which is going to be so helpful in March. So yeah, I think this team is battle tested. If you play Iowa State, you better bring it, and you got to bring it for 40 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes. And if you don't, we're going to win. So any other closing thoughts on the Tech game or just anything in general? I feel like I mean, me and you talked on the phone for 2 hours after the game,
Yep.
just so pumped. I mean, it was just such a satisfying win because I just feel like we've seen that game 100 times and we don't win it ever.
Like
So
I was like, put my mind in Deontay Garrett. Like, how freaking fun has it been to come to get a job and then it's like, all right, well, we haven't been this successful when I was there, and it's just like wins against Baylor and this road win against Texas Tech. Like, he's got to be over the moon with this team and his job because that's got to be so fun because he loved Iowa State. He loved Iowa State like just as like everyone other former Iowa State player, and he like loved Iowa State that he almost redshirted his senior year just so he could play with that Royce White team, and like we could have, who knows where that team could have gone because that's
right.
what the team was missing. But yeah, it's really nice to see him and seeing his celebration with the team after the game.
I know it was awesome. Yeah, it just kind of brings you back. 'Cause, I mean, he is an integral part of the Iowa State story because he was so good, and that's what was awesome is the first person to get to Joshua after his buzzer beater was Deontay Garrett, one of our coaches. He's still got a little spring in his step because he was quick off the bench and he was there to celebrate with the guys. And yeah, I that's a great point because he's just just seems like such a nice guy and loves Iowa State. And I mean, what an awesome opportunity to fall into where we lose a coach and he's like, hey, I want to be a part of this. And I mean, what a year to be a part of Iowa State basketball. So, and I think he too he's only going to help recruiting. He knows what Iowa State's about, just like TJ does. And he's from the Wisconsin area, and we've had a lot of players come from Wisconsin and do really well. So, yeah, I don't know. There's something special about this team, and I just think as Iowa State fans, show up to Hilton every opportunity you get. Show up to road games when you can, and just enjoy every freaking moment of this team because they're so good. And teams like this don't come along very often. And I mean, we've never been ranked second in the country. We're about to be in an hour or two. We get to play Kansas, a top 10 matchup in Hilton. Probably going to be favored by 6 to 8. So yeah, I think that's probably a natural progression. Looking forward to Kansas. I don't know if you watched them much. I've watched them a little bit. It's typical Kansas. They're pretty talented, top to bottom. Bill Self, obviously one of the best coaches of all time. Definitely probably one of the best coaches in Big 12 history. I mean, if you Mount Rushmore of Big 12 coaches, he's definitely on it. But I don't know about you. I really like how we match up with them. I mean, Hunter Dickinson is what he is. He's tall, he's skilled. And we haven't really talked about Deshaun Jackson much. He hasn't been playing that well. But I mean, Deshaun Jackson is the guy you want when Hunter Dickinson's on the opposing end of the floor. So I look for him to play more minutes than he has. And honestly, too, I think he has an opportunity to get Hunter Dickinson in foul trouble, which if that happens, I think we win pretty easily. DeJuan Harris seems like he's been there forever. He was on the national title team. I don't know about you. DeJuan Harris has really never scared me.
Nope.
And I think Taman Lipsey has a way to make DeJuan Harris extremely uncomfortable and not be effective. So I like that matchup. They've got some transfers that have come in and can shoot the ball, and I think they are a little bit like the Fred teams as far as they can score points, but they have to make jumpers, and if they don't, they can have droughts just like the early TJ teams too. But they've got 9 guys that are pretty talented. So I don't know. What are your thoughts as far as what's going to happen on Wednesday?
I just think we need to. Milan has to have a decent game. Like get Deshaun Jackson kind of going forward a little better than he has been. I think just confidence wise, he's still done a pretty good job, but I still think there's a little more in there for just like, oh crap, he's pretty damn good too. But just make free throws. Can't miss 10 free throws and can't turn the ball over like we did at Texas Tech. Can't just like be lazy about it and like get the crowd out of it. Like we need to keep the crowd into it. Like we need to start fast. Like get Milan a 3-pointer or 2 to start the game, or Lipsy, or just something positive like going into the TV timeout, because that's when usually Kansas teams kind of go away, and when we just like right away, kind of like Iowa too, where we just punch them in the face right away and just continue on. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like remember like how Bill Self just gets a T right away just like to get the refs on his side. So it'll be interesting to see who the refs are and just how tightly they call the calls of like hand checks and all that. Because if they let us play, I think we win pretty handily. Because I think just the way I think TJ does a pretty good job against Kansas teams, and I think Lipsy and all of our players are pretty darn. They love winning, obviously, like Curtis Jones says, but winning at Hilton is just you can't not win at Hilton, because that's like we have to keep the streak going on, and I think we do it. And
yeah, I agree with you. I think too. One thing, I think is a good point. TJ teams, even when we were definitely less talented than Kansas, even the year Kansas won the national title, we should have won in Lawrence. They missed the call with Caleb Grill, his foot not being on the line, and then they had a goaltending that was not called that led to a bucket for Kansas. So the thing is now is we're probably more talented than Kansas. We're definitely a better defensive team than Kansas, and we're at Hilton. And Kansas, I think one thing you can say about Bill Self teams is they don't really get affected by opposing arenas. That being said, Hilton has a way to kind of, it doesn't affect Kansas necessarily, but it affects us, and we can go on a run quick, and we can get out. I mean, look at the freaking Baylor game. It was one of the worst Big 12 environments I've been a part of. It was quiet, but there was like a couple 2 to 3 minute stretches where we got a little loud and we went on a run, and you look at the scoreboard and we're up 20. I could see it happening. I don't think it's going to be, we're going to win by double digits, but I think it's going to be a good game. But again, I just think the way we play is the other team has to play so well for the entire game. And that's just not going to happen to Hilton, I don't think. So I look for us to win. If we lose, it'd be a huge, huge bummer. I think, honestly, the Iowa State fan to me is like, oh, we're ranked second in the country. That's when we probably drop a game or two, which is fine. I don't want it to be against Kansas. But I don't know. I just think you look at just their position groups. I take our guards probably over anyone's in the country. They don't have a Joshua Jefferson. KJ Adams is athletic and good, but he's not as skilled as Jefferson. And I think Deshaun Jackson matches up really well against Hunter Dickinson. So that being said, Bill Self's he's gonna have found something that's gonna give them the best opportunity to win, just because he is an incredible coach. I also think he really enjoys coming to Hilton, because I think he just is a college basketball fan. I think he really respects the heck out of TJ, and I think TJ respects him obviously too. So it's going to be fun. I mean, if you can go, there's no students. There's going to be tickets. I mean, obviously there's not going to be tickets available, but if you have a ticket, go and cheer loud. So there's not many times where it's a top 10 matchup between Kansas and Iowa State, but it is, and we're the higher ranked team and we're the better team. So I expect us to win, and it's going to be fun regardless.
Yep. It's always fun against Kansas, no matter how good we are or how good they are. It's always a great game. And I think honestly, the last 30 plus years, it's one of the best rivalries, consistent rivalries in the Big 12, Big 8. And it's just hopefully the good series continues on. It's always a great game. When the refs allow us to play the game, it's usually a great game. But when the refs get in the way and it's just a free throw fest, that's when it's just like, oh, man.
And they're going to have a couple times where they get the Kansas calls. I feel like Iowa State's starting to get a few of those calls, which is kind of nice. But the thing is, too, what I love about Hilton is every bad call at Hilton feels just like a crime against humanity. Everyone is just so freaking mad when there's bad calls, especially if there's a couple in a row. That's like some of the loudest I've heard Hilton's is when, and we just love to boo. And then they show a replay, and then it like just happens again. And it's just so funny to watch like the people in the crowd just like react like someone kicked their dog or something. It's really funny. But that being said, we do it the exact same thing. I mean, so I think that's a good point. If the refs make it about them, it'll be not as fun of a game. Even so, I think we still win. And if we can go, I mean, how awesome would it be if we beat Kansas by 15?
I know. It was so sad. Like, it's not even a contest. Like, it's done right away, and they sneak back. Like, we win by 20, and they just kind of sneak back at the end, and it's not like a stressful game at all. And if we can just make free throws, that's really if we just can't get on a bad streak of bad free throw shooting because it's hard to kind of get out of that rut when you have a bad free throw week or two, because that's what I'm kind of worried about Keyshawn. Like
Yeah.
everything else in his game, I trust, but him and clutch free throw shooting, it's kind of up in the air. But I think,
Which, I mean, for the most part, he's been a lot better free throw shooter this year. But you're right. I mean, free throw shooting, as you know, like is extremely mental. And like if you aren't confident going to the line, they're not going in, regardless if you're a 90% free throw shooter or 35. So I think but the thing is too, Keyshawn, like it doesn't take much to get his confidence back. So like if he can just get to the line early and he starts making them, he's going to make them down the stretch. But I mean, there was just something off about the Tech game where he just wasn't comfortable. So you could tell he wasn't thrilled to be at the line, especially the one front of the front end of the 1-1 he missed, which thankfully we got obviously bailed up by Joshua Jefferson down the stretch too. So yeah, and the thing is too, it's at Hilton, so like a lot of those things get resolved quickly just because we're playing in the arena we take care of. So
yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it just, if we can protect Hilton and not lose again this year, that would just be, it would be pretty nice. So
it's almost like more valuable than like a Big 12 tournament championship. Just like to say that this building we don't lose in versus like, like Hilton South. I think having Hilton like undefeated and we just dominate like Kansas, Allen Fieldhouse. That's how we win Big 12 championships, regular season titles.
Yeah.
And do what we did against Texas Tech and just steal them on the road. That's what the Monte Morris, Georgia Yang teams. We just didn't do that at all, ever. We just always lost games. Like we just didn't lose. We don't like even when the teams were worse than us. We would play at their level and just lose. But this team's different, and I think we have so many more guards. And it wasn't just on Monte. Like there's no just on Monte Morris. Like there's more ball distributors on this team. Like Keyshawn could play point guard the whole game. Chris Jones could play point guard the whole game. Lipsy could play point guard the whole game. Even like Jefferson could facilitate the offense.
Same with Heisey.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, our guys, we always make the extra pass, and it's always like our guys see the floor so well, and they play extremely well together, and they play for each other, which I think is totally evident of how, obviously, I mean, we couldn't win the Tech game if we didn't play together. So it's just, and that, honestly, when you have guys that can all distribute, it makes it so hard to guard because the ball rarely sticks. The few times it does is when Keyshawn's going one-on-one, which is fine. Like I'm going to take that because Keyshawn's going to win those matchups more than not. But we just have so low ego, which in this day and age is so rare. And we're talented. So I mean, like we have talented guys that play hard and play together. It just puts a lot of pressure on the opposing defenses. So I totally agree with you. And yeah, that's another thing too. I think going back to Nate Heisey, gosh, fouls out, plays 31 minutes, makes one basket, has an air ball 3. You look at that, like you'd be mad at Nate Heisey, but I am glad when Nate Heisey's in because he had 9 rebounds. He guarded their best player and made him extremely uncomfortable. And he didn't have a very good game. I mean, Darian Williams is a good player, and Heisey really, really matched up with him well. So yeah, I mean, we have the secret sauce. I mean, we just are consistent. And it would be awesome to win the Big 12 outright in the regular season. That's not this team's goal, which I also love too, is like this team has really high aspirations. So that's why they don't really get too high or too low. Like one loss isn't going to totally tank their season, and they're never going to get too high either. I mean, you watch how we reacted. Like we should have, like the entire bench should have cleared after we won that game. You know what I mean? Like that should have been like a insane celebration. Like, holy cow. Like you look at the highlights of the Nebraska game where Tinsley made that pass to to Shirley. Was it Shirley or Rancic?
It was Tinsley to Rancic. Rancic for the layup. Yeah.
So, I mean, but our guys are just kind of business as usual. Like they're excited, but like it's on to the next. So, the next one this week is Kansas. So there's not going to be a lack of energy from our guys going into Wednesday.
And like that type of winning at Texas Tech makes me way more confident going into Allen Fieldhouse. Like winning those type of wins, because that's the type of game it's going to be when we play them or at West. I don't know if we play at West Virginia, but it's just those type of wins where it's close and the crowd is hyped. They're making every big shot under the sun, and then we just when it comes to winning time, we just step up and get over the top and usually win.
Yeah, the thing is too with this team is like in big games against big opponents, our guys show up. Like the Auburn game, we played awesome. Aside from like the 10-minute stretch where we didn't play very well in the second half, a lot of that being Keyshawn was in foul trouble. I mean, the Marquette game, gosh, like we were totally in control of that game the whole way, and Marquette's good too. So like that's what I love about this team. Is like when there's a big game, not that Texas Tech wasn't a big game, but like when they're not ranked, it's not like a game that we are totally getting up for. It was a big win, obviously. I mean, when you're playing Kansas in the top 10 matchup, it's a big game. Our guys are going to show up. Same thing when you go to Allen Fieldhouse, it's a big game every time. Our guys are going to be ready. The other thing is super nice about this team, dissimilar to teams previously, is like we don't take games off. We don't play down to bad teams. Like the Utah game, we didn't play that well, but like we just still played with the same effort. And then eventually enough shots went in where we won by 20. Which is nice because this year the Big 12 is definitely down compared to years previous just because we have so many teams. So, like, we take care of business against teams we're definitely better than, which as an Iowa State fan is foreign and nice because, like, how many games are we sweating or, like, we just lay an egg at West Virginia and lose by 30 with DeAndre Kane and Monte Morris and you know what I mean? So
Or what Tennessee did.
that's why I think this team is right now. Houston is still the favorite to win the Big 12, which is probably just because they don't come to Hilton and we have to go there.
Like when Tennessee lost by
harder down the stretch.
like Tennessee lost by 30 earlier this week, and that's what I was kind of worried about with the Texas Tech game, where we just can't make any offense, and they just hit every big shot, which they did. But our offense is just completely different this year. We just being top 10 in the nation in the offense versus like being top 200 the last couple of years. It's a really nice change, especially with our defense.
Well, especially too, like even that we didn't turn them over a ton either. So like we have ways to score in the half court, which like in years previous was just such a slog at times. So, and I just love there's times it's some of the best ball movement I've seen in a long time, even better than some of those Fred teams. So we've obviously, and everyone knows like TJ is not enabled to coach offense. Like we just needed the right guys, and now we have them. So yeah, the thing is too, I looking a little even past Kansas, that West Virginia game is also going to be tough. I don't know. Have we ever won there?
It's been a long time. I think we won there a couple times.
Nothing comes to mind. And there's never a time or a game that comes to mind where like, holy cow, we played really well in Morgantown. So that's going to be tough too. I know the DeVries kid is probably not going to play. It sounds like he's been hurt and maybe out for the season. I don't know.
Weirdly enough,
they still beat
that 2020 team. That 2020 team that we won only 2 games, they almost won at West Virginia. Oh, that was really close.
Almost beat Baylor too. For the Invincible.
We wore gray uniforms, and that was right. I think it was around the time we were in the Big 12 championship or something like that. I don't know. It was a weird time. That was a weird time, but yeah, West Virginia is impossible to play with. I think that's like second to Allen Fieldhouse, where it's like you can't just walk in there being anyone. I mean, obviously, unless you're like Andrew.
And Houston now, probably.
Yeah, Houston too. Yeah, there's too many new teams in our conference. Obviously, Arizona. We haven't played Arizona yet. They're in our conference too, so we got to adjust that. I forgot that Arizona's in our conference, which I think they're just going to get better and better and better because they have all the resources and the history, and
they're talented too. Like they're playing well. And I mean, they were 4-6 at one point, but like all 6 losses were quad 1 losses. So like it wasn't like they were losing to directional state. So yeah, they're going to be good. But that's the thing. That's what I love about basketball season compared to football is like you don't have to wait that long for the next game, and it's usually against a good team, and it's usually good games. So like that's what living in a place like Iowa in the winter, it just makes winter so fun just because there's so many good games. And then while you're waiting, you can just rewatch the games previously. I mean, I've already watched the Tech game like twice just because it was so fun. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a slog, a little less of a slog compared to last year, but we're going to have opportunities. And I mean, hypothetically, if we go 2-0 this week, I don't think we can even fathom the hype train that's coming.
Especially if we're ranked 1 in the country somehow, especially the Auburn best player going out, and they could probably lose a couple games, but they still won. But
the thing is too, all that truly matters in college basketball is can you get your team ready to play the best basketball when it's March?
Yep.
If you win a conference title in the regular season, that is awesome. And that'll put this team in the same breath as the Tinsley teams, which would be cool. But all that matters is we're healthy and playing our best basketball in March. The Big 12 the Big 12 tournament's always in play. If you played Iowa State, regardless of talent, it's always in play. It doesn't matter this year. I don't think this team, they want to make a Final Four. They want to win a national title. And I mean, we're good. I mean, it is so crazy how good we are. If you really think about it and break it down, like we are winning games consistently just by executing better than the other team, playing harder for longer, as Campbell says. It like we've said it 100 times. Like this only existed in video games until this year. You know what I mean?
Yep. Or we actually did it.
Team, like the Tinsley Pfizer team lost to Drake for crying out loud. Like they didn't play consistent the whole year either. They played their best basketball in March and they got hosed in Auburn Hills. That's whatever. But this team doesn't. And the thing is too, we have guys that are due. Like Milan is due for 5 threes against Kansas. You know? Yep. Like if he comes out and hits 2 threes before the first time TV timeout, Hilton's going to be freaking on fire.
Yep. Yeah, it will be. And it's nothing better than Hilton being on fire when we're actually good. And like we're actually like we've dreamt about being like we've always like in the off season we've gotten like when we added Bryce John Jones and we're like that Niang team, like we thought could be in the Final Four, like that one year where everyone was picked us in the Final Four, but that was such a hot and cold team. But now, like we can be cold and still win a game based on our defense.
Yeah.
So it's just a different dynamic, and yeah, it's just awesome being good, like you said, and it's honestly what we dreamt for is just happening to us right now, and it's just there's nothing better than what's going on right now because being the better team and actually showing up and beating teams where we don't play the best is just a different territory we're not familiar with. And
for sure. And I think that's 100% to do with Otzelberger and how he coaches these guys. Like he's never too high, never too low. I really respect how he talks to refs, even when you can tell sometimes he's extremely pissed, but he calmly is like explains, here's the ref side. And then we'll say a little joke and that'll get the ref on his side. And that's why I think we're starting to get calls. Like we don't have people jumping down their throats. Like he's just political about it, which I think is paying off because Self for the most part can do that, but he's obviously got enough respect where he can just freaking ref a new one and then he'll start getting calls even if he gets a T. But yeah, I think the thing is too, I mean, can you just go back through the last 10, 15 years, like the amount of times where we have a 1 or 2 point lead, it's the last minute, we need to stop and just feeling hopeless because we're not going to get a stop.
Yep.
Those teams, they had the ball last to win. We don't. We can be down 5 with 1:30 and string a couple stops together and still win the game, which we did 2 days ago.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's good times good times are now, and I think it's going to continue in the future. And this team is special, and it's just so fun to watch these. I don't want the season to end. Honestly, it's just so fun to watch this team. And
if this team doesn't win the national title, which is possible because March is weird and it's hard to win that tournament, the loss is going to hurt bad.
Yep. That's building up to that.
This team will be done. Yeah. But I mean, also, I don't know. I've never been this calm going into games. Like we obviously still have our Iowa State moments where we irrationally yell at the TV and throw things, but I just trust these guys. I trust these guys to make the right play. So does TJ. And I want our guys to get a little excited though, because I feel like, I mean, Joshua, he's so calm, but like at times I want him to like just pump up the crowd once, because if he does, the place is going to go nuts.
He's not running down the court flexing or.
Yeah, which I like for the most part, but there's times when I think it does feed into the crowd even more.
Like
Cam
Lard.
Like you pump the crowd every possession.
Like Cam Lard. Whenever you
Cam Lard off the backboard, which I also liked, but like a little more emotion of Joshua would be awesome. I'm not criticizing by any means, but I just in games like Wednesday, like the players are gonna feel the energy, and it's just gonna be so fun. And like you said, like I don't want this season to end. As Iowa State fans, we just have to enjoy every moment. Like this team, we're gonna tell whoever's gonna listen to us about this team for a long time.
Yep.
And thankfully, credit to you for cutting these games up and putting them on YouTube. That's going to be so awesome in 30 years just to go back to that page and just show your grandkids like, hey, this is what we went through in 2024 and 25 and how good we were. And it's hopefully hopefully Otzelberger's still coaching us at that point, to be honest.
Yep.
So
And we've had a couple national titles, and I don't know.
I mean, how awesome would it be to like in that one, like that opening drive, like on the south side of Hilton, if there's an Otzelberger statue someday.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, he's on the track. We have Johnny Orr's statue, obviously, and I think TJ is honestly. I think he loves Iowa State just as much as Johnny, just as much as Fred, and so obviously his wife was at Iowa State. I think her jersey could be in the rafters someday, just based on her impact on the program at Iowa State. But yeah, it's couldn't be a better time. No complaints from here from Sound the Sirens at all from our bass program, because I think this is the best we have been ever, and we have the right guy at the helm, and I think we're just gonna keep it going. So
for sure. So just that being said, what do you think happens Wednesday?
I think Milan has a big game. I think usually Milan has big games in these moments. I think Deshaun Jackson has at least 10 plus points, a lot of rebounds. I think he wins the matchup against Dickinson and Dickinson, whoever. He's sure. I mean, our crowd, obviously our students are there to chant something like that, but we had that a couple of years in a row where they get a guy with the last name that's close with the word Dick in it. But anyways, it's I don't know. Bill Self, it's always a great game. I respect the program. I love how it's not like a heated rivalry where we hate each other. I think it's like we both respect each other.
There are some teams where I just despise them, but I agree with you. Love Bill Self.
Like, it's not like Jerome Tang coming in here where we just want to kill Kansas State because we absolutely can't stand them. But I don't think it's to that level. I just think we both respect each other. We're both really good basketball programs. One of the best, like the last 20 years, like we've produced one of the most NBA talent out of both schools. Like I don't know, it's just a great TV product, and Hilton's a great spot for it when it's Kansas versus Hilton. It's just a great TV product every time, and I hope it's a big TV number. I hope we show up, and I think I saw on Twitter that Jay Billis is going to be on the call, which that's big time commentary, which he's only been there in Hilton probably less than 5 times, I think. And
he was there for 1 year, the Kansas game when Perry Ellis was a junior, I think.
Yep, and I think Tinsley against Missouri back in the day. But yeah, it's just I love how the media is going to start showing us respect, and we're actually backing it up, and it's just beautiful to see, and it's just awesome to go to Hilton thinking we're going to win, and we usually do, and against good teams.
Final score, what do you think?
I think it'll be like 82-71. We win.
Double digits, you think?
Yep. I think we just pull ahead or have a couple BS threes at the end that just takes us over the top, and we get a couple stops at the end, because Kansas usually at the end, unless you're Elijah Johnson, and just go nuts. Like at the end of the game, they usually shell up, and we usually take it over the top and win. So I think that'll happen, and
Yeah, I think I agree. I think we get in the 80s. I think hopefully 84, 78, something like that. I think we win by 6. That being said, I am concerned about offensive rebounding. It's become a theme, especially in the first half. So hopefully, and obviously the coaches are aware of that too. So I expect that to be better as we go forward. But yeah, I mean, and then if we win Wednesday and win Saturday, it's going to be a little over the top coming from us too. It's going to be
because we're just going to have like a repeated podcast where it's like, all right, we're the best. Like, this is the best time ever.
We're just going to say over and over, can you believe how good we are? My goodness. And that's true. But it's been fun. I am extremely excited. It's going to be a fun week. It's fun when Kansas comes to town. I guess one thing too, I'd like to pick your brain as we close is Heisey has been money down the stretch. He's a really good defender. And in tight games like that, TJ has gone to Heisey down the stretch and Milan on the bench. I think I would like to see us try to find a way to get Milan involved, because there were times on Saturday where I feel like we needed an extra threat on the outside to open things up for Keyshawn and Curtis and Taman. I just think it's much harder for Keyshawn to get to the rim when it's Taman and Nate Heisey on the outside as opposed to Milan and Curtis. So I obviously can't criticize TJ that much. We're winning games and we're 14-1, but I would like to. I think there are going to be games where we're going to have to tweak that rotation down the stretch a little bit. So I hope that Milan get some opportunities in close games like that in the next month or two. Not a criticism, it's just an observation. I just think it helps everything when you have another threat on the outside. But yeah,
It's all situational stuff, I think, and I think Heise's just his foot speed on defense is just a lot faster than Milan's, and I think when I think Milan will have his time. I think we're just way too talented right now, honestly, like to even mess around with like players trying to get up for this team. I think we just have so many great players on this team that are already like we have so many people to go to with like Curtis Jones, like Keyshawn and like Jefferson. That's like Milan might be the fourth option right now for like a clutch shot, which is absolutely insane. Thinking about like coming in the last year.
yeah. I mean, he's hit the last second shot against Houston last year.
Yep. So yeah, he I'm not worried about Milan one bit. I think he's just gonna continue on to progress, and I think mentally, I think he's there, and we have a great group of guys where everyone can be happy for each other when we're doing well and not pout, which I think that
Yeah,
a lot of great teams have a problem with that when we just not everyone's succeeding at the same rate, and then they just get pissed off. I don't think we have any players like that. I think that's very valuable, especially in this environment.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and how TJ did that, I don't know, because it's in this day and age, it's college players are about themselves, which hard to argue that when they're making this kind of money, but our guys are truly a team, and that's why I think in this landscape going forward, is Iowa State's going to be tough to deal with because we find guys that buy in and play together and play for each other. So I think well said. I'm not worried about Milan either. I just the basketball player in me, like it sucks to sit on the bench, especially down the stretch. Not that Milan is showing any signs of being frustrated, but it can affect you. So I want Milan to feel the love from Cyclone Nation, which I'm sure he does, and I know I know he's going to come up big in the next couple months. So
Yep. So yeah, hopefully everyone gets to Hilton and cheers loud and just soak it all in and just enjoy being a Cyclone fan. It's just that you've done the dirty work, and we're really good in a lot of like football. We're the best we've ever been, and basketball we're the best we've ever been, and just wear your colors to work and school, and just be proud. Hold your head like we did when we were bad, so might as well just do it when we're really good. So it's a great time to be Cyclone fans, and we appreciate everyone listening, and hope you'll have a safe drive to Hilton, and appreciate everyone listening.
all right, go
Go
Cyclones.
Cyclones.